Singapore is always the example. When conversations turn to urban success, to modernity, to what a smart nation looks like in action, Singapore comes up like clockwork. The shimmering skyline, the spotless trains, the immaculate public housing blocks rising neatly in rows like something out of a simulation. It's clean, it's fast, it works. People speak of it like a miracle, a city-state that rose from swampland into first-world glory in a single generation, all by mastering the magic word that governments everywhere love to invoke: efficiency. And yes, in many ways, Singapore is impressive. The airport is practically a 5-star hotel. Bureaucracy moves with precision. The streets are some of the safest in the world. When you look at the hard numbers, GDP per capita, life expectancy, literacy rates, it's easy to believe the story that this is the ultimate model for functional society. But underneath the shiny metrics and the curated perfection is something far more complicated. Something few officials talk about, and even fewer residents dare to say too loudly. That this same efficiency, the one that gets Singapore so much praise, often comes at the cost of something deeply human. Because behind every polished system is a person who has to fit inside it. And in Singapore, those systems don't leave much room for being messy, uncertain, or just human. It's not a place that tolerates ambiguity well. From school to army to workplace, life is structured, measured, ranked, and optimized. Kids are streamed from an early age based on performance, with every exam shaping the next step of their future. And the pressure begins before they even reach double digits. There's no time to fail, no room to fall behind, no safety net if you don't keep up. Even success doesn't feel like a victory sometimes. It feels like barely avoiding disaster. Talk to a Singaporean student and you'll hear exhaustion in their voice. Not just physical tiredness, but a kind of spiritual fatigue from living in a system that treats them like components in a machine. Talk to a domestic worker or migrant laborer, and you'll hear a different story entirely. One of invisibility, of exploitation wrapped in bureaucracy, of lives that support the system but are never allowed to fully participate in it. The rules work, yes, but they don't work for everyone equally. The constant emphasis on performance creates a society that is always looking upward, but rarely inward. People move fast, talk fast, and work harder than most. But there's little space to pause and ask whether all this striving is actually leading somewhere meaningful. The mental health crisis in Singapore isn't some quiet undercurrent anymore. It's a wave that's crashing into every generation. From overworked school children to burned-out professionals to elderly folks feeling isolated in a hyper-efficient society that doesn't know how to slow down long enough to listen. And still, no one complains. Not out loud, at least. That's part of the efficiency, too. Dissent is something to be managed, regulated, or gently redirected. Speak out too strongly, and you're likely to find yourself nudged aside, told to be grateful, reminded how much worse things could be. The city may run like clockwork, but it polices its image with the same precision. Even artists and activists find themselves caught between their conscience and the unspoken boundaries of acceptability. It's not that people don't know what's happening. It's that they've learned how to live inside the machine, how to survive within the rules. Many even thrive. But thriving here often means learning to silence the parts of yourself that ask too many questions, that want something a little messier, a little more uncertain, a little more alive. Singapore is efficient. No one's denying that. But it's the kind of efficiency that trims off the edges of life, that makes space for productivity, but not always for joy, for order, but not always for warmth. It's a place where everything works until you need it to bend, to soften, to make room for imperfection. And then suddenly, it feels like the system was never built for people at all, just for results, and yet people endure. Because there is beauty here too, in the food stalls that survive despite the odds, in the quiet acts of rebellion that take the form of art, in the friendships forged under pressure, in the parents who fight for their children to have more freedom than they did. Humanity still exists, not because of the system, but in spite of it. But that's the point. A truly successful society shouldn't demand that people trade their humanity for order. It shouldn't run so well that the cost is invisible until it breaks someone. Efficiency can be good, powerful even, but only if it serves the people, not the other way around. Singapore has mastered the art of control, of systems, of sleek surfaces and predictable outcomes. But maybe the next chapter in its story isn't about optimizing even more. Maybe it's about remembering that a city can be impressive without being unkind, that a society can be safe without being cold, and that progress means very little if people have to leave pieces of themselves behind just to belong.